and the American immigrants to Israel who've been served very well in the Knesset for the last couple of years, I'm sure the overwhelming majority of them are hoping that Dov Lipman will remain in the Knesset from Yesh Atid. Dov Lipman, who was born in Maryland, who has made a point of serving the English-speaking community in Israel and defending Israel abroad very well, really been a pride and joy of the American Jewish community. And he's on the line with us. And I'm not only saying those things because he's on the line with us. He's a very patient man as well. Dov, thank you for being here on Inside Israel today.
Thank you so much, Gil. It's great to be here with you.
Now, are we only going to find out on January 29th? Are you going to find out before whether you're going to be in the promoted from where you were 17th on the list last time to somewhere higher where you can be a little bit more confident between now and March 17th?
I certainly will know before that. The party will have a campaign event where the list is unveiled. I don't know to what degree there will be significant changes. All of us are certainly working very hard now for the party as a whole. We are all over the country every single night, and I can say that for myself, it's been remarkable to see the change from 2 years ago when the party didn't even have an English-speaking branch. It was sort of me on my own kind of out there, and now there's an official branch with volunteers all over the country and events in English every single night. So there certainly has been a focus from the party on reaching out to that population. And whether or not I move up in spot or not, I certainly believe that Yesh Atid will succeed very much in these elections, and we see it out in the field how our support is growing by the day.
You should maybe just keep on telling Yair, you know, I like the number 12. 12 is a very good number.
One of the things that I learned from last time, it's interesting. Last campaign, we had debate all over the country, and there were English-speaking candidates from most of the parties or representatives, but the candidates in particular, every one of them at some point during the debate said, vote for my party so that I can be your English-speaking representative in Knesset. If you go back to the tape, you'll see that I never said those words. I didn't say those words for two reasons. One was the polls didn't indicate that my spot was necessarily realistic, and therefore I felt it could be a little misleading to suggest that the public do so. But I also felt that I was there representing Yesh Atid. It wasn't specifically about being in the Knesset as an Anglo representative. And remarkably, after it was all said and done, I ended up being in that role. And the truth is, I look back, and it was a tremendous honor the last year and 8 months to really, whether people voted for Yesh Atid or not, our office became the address for English speakers throughout Israel. And there's no doubt that I certainly look forward to be able to continuing doing so. And I think people realize that we made that contribution, and hopefully they'll cast their vote for Yesh Atid so that we can continue doing so.
Okay, well, we certainly, Americans could use having people to turn to in the Knesset with all the needs there are of Americans here in Israel that are different needs than other communities have. Why do you think BIDUD, a religious Zionist party that purports to represent people who live in communities where there are a lot of English speakers, why did they not pick any of the 4 possibilities for the Knesset that were native English speakers?
Let me first say that the candidates were certainly very worthy. I had the honor of working with Uri Bank every day. The way the Knesset plenary is set up, he was right behind where I would sit on a daily basis, and certainly see him as a person who was worthy of serving the Knesset. And it saddens me to see that he didn't make that cut. I think that in analyzing it, there's 2 approaches to it. One is it could be that when English-speaking candidates run the primaries, they focus very much on the English speakers, and that's where they try to make their impression. But that limits the size of the group that's supporting them. And I think that one of the lessons could be that you actually have to work very hard to broaden your base of support. I know that for myself and Yesh Atid, in a few years, we're going to be having primaries as well. And I already am very aware of that. And my support basis in the party cannot be limited to those who are English speakers, and I'm branching out and reaching all other kinds of groups to generate their support for when those primaries come. But the other level, in this case, I'll mention a criticism, not of the candidates, but of the party leaders. The party leaders do have tremendous influence on the primaries. Of course, it's democracy, and of course, people vote based on what they believe, but a lot of the information is based on what comes from the party leaders, and a lot of their trust is placed on the party leaders because they don't know all these candidates. And I believe that if, in the case of Naftali Bennett, or in the case of Yitzhak Herzog, or in the case of the Likud, if there was a deliberate decision, we want to make sure that we have someone who can represent the English-speaking population in our list. If that decision was made, that the leaders could have impacted that, not necessarily guaranteed it because it is free elections, but made a real impact. And I don't think that effort was made at all. And from my perspective, there's a place to criticize the leadership for that, because there is a need for that kind of representation in the Knesset, and the various parties should be looking for someone to represent that population in their parties.
I don't know. I'll have to find out from Uri whether he tried in a serious way to get support from non-English speakers. I mean, I know that he hired a Hebrew language PR team because I was getting press releases from them that in which he was like, he made his comments against gay marriage public in Hebrew, against public transportation on Shabbat. Those are pretty popular points of view for Bayit Yehudi. And so I, if I can defend him, he did at least spend some money to try to get his word out there. And the other candidate who I forgot to mention before, who actually did better than the other three a little bit, but still nowhere near a realistic slot, is a fellow named Yossi Fuchs, who is the head of the of a team of lawyers that defends the land of Israel out of Neve Daniel. Again, he also is known by Israelis, and it just didn't work.
Yeah, so there again, I wasn't criticizing the English speakers. I was criticizing the party leaders, and there it is possible they could have done a much better job in helping those candidates succeed.
Okay. And so Labor, is a party that's going to be competing with Yesh Atid for votes. They have a candidate who did wonders in Tel Aviv in making the city have a positive image all around the world when Israel's image is not always great. In Eitan Schwartz. Have you gotten a chance to meet him?
I haven't had the chance to meet him, but I have read about him. And I think that's another element, by the way, that we do bring to the table in terms of being familiar with the West, and not just in language, but in culture, and being able to make the case for Israel. You mentioned in your introduction that's something which I have been heavily involved with, and it wasn't even only by my choice. The Knesset, pretty soon after we were in office, turned to me in parliament-to-parliament diplomacy and asked me to meet with delegations from all over the world when they came to the Knesset, and sent me elsewhere. And I have no doubt that we would succeed tremendously as a Knesset if throughout the parties we had people who had those capabilities. You know, I went on Knesset delegations, and we prepared for it beforehand from different parties all together, and it would come close to the time for the meeting, and one by one, members from other parties would come to me and say, Dov, you can speak in my name. Dov, you can speak in my name. And before I knew it, I'm speaking in the names of 4 or 5 different parties at these meetings. I would love nothing more than to have English speakers who also understand how to speak to various representatives from around the world, representing all of the parties. And I hope that we can reach a time where the Knesset does have many more English speakers, especially for that angle of diplomacy.
Amen. Okay, Dov Lipman, thank you for coming on our show. You're always welcome here at Voice of Israel, and you're very much appreciated by us over here at Voice of Israel and our listeners.